All right. Hello, my name is Dobson-Reese. Today is December 7th, 2022, and I am here with my fourth grade teaching team, Donna Smarjesse, Ann Schmidt, and Tanya Busby. I am presenting to them my effects of MobyMax on student fact fluency action research project. All right, can you guys see the poster?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. All right, so my action research question was, will implementing daily use of MobyMax multiplication fact fluency improve fourth grade students' scores on monthly multiplication fluency assessments? I teach at a rural school in Auburn, Illinois. We have about 224 students. Our middle school and high school is combined into two attaching buildings. So we share 7 of our staff members between the middle school and the high school. Our average class size is about 17. Most of our teachers and staff are white. Our student body is also mostly white at 90%, about 90%. We have about 34% of our population is low income, free and reduced lunch. And we have about 18% of our student body who have individual education plans. For this particular study, I used a group of 16 fourth grade students. I have 8 boys and 8 girls in my class. All of them receive direct instruction from me in the general education classroom. I do have one student who gets resource minutes from the special education teacher after getting direct instruction from me for math specifically. This class was identified last year as having some major gaps with math, so they were leveled as third graders. They used reflex math for fact fluency, and even with those things put into place, we've noticed this year that there's quite a significant gap in their fact fluency and even their math skills. I used an 80 question pretest that had multiplication facts 0 through 12. Students had 3 minutes to answer as many as they could correctly. Once I graded the pretest, I recorded them using Google Sheets. I also gave the students, first I implemented MobyMax. They practiced 10 minutes a day. They were assigned facts 0 through 12, and MobyMax is nice in that it tracks the minutes that kids spend each day. So it tells you if they get their full 10 minutes or if not, so you can kind of keep on them to make sure they're getting in their 10 minutes each day. Once kids have mastered their facts, they're able to create a certificate, and we use that as a motivation and reward in my classroom. Once we got into MobyMax, I gave students a Google form that was a survey asking them how they felt about multiplication and how they felt about MobyMax itself, just to see if they were interested in the app or if it was something they didn't really enjoy doing. At the end of the 6 weeks of using MobyMax 10 minutes a day, I gave the same 80 question test as a post test and graded it, recorded the number of questions answered correctly by each student in the same Google Sheet so that I was able to create some graphs and analyze the data. So moving on to the key findings. As shown in figure 1, this represents the scores of my 16 students. You can see their pre-test scores in the gray and their post-test scores in the blue. The majority of my students made some improvement. If you look at figure number 2, this shows you the average test scores for the pre-test and the post-test. So on average, about 41% correct on the pre-test and about 56% correct on the post-test. So there was some growth there with the students. I personally like the third figure the most. It gives you a percentage of improvement. So it shows you, I think you get a better effect from this. You can see that I had one student increase by 135%, so that's a significant improvement. It ranges all the way to a decline of 22%. So the student went backwards. I wonder if maybe that was due to the day we took the test, maybe something going on at home or had a rough morning. as I look back at some of the other things for that student, they kind of go up and down a little bit. You can also see that I had a student who did not improve at all, stayed right at 0%, so showed no growth there. Lastly, you can see in figure 4, the survey that I gave, the Google form. Most of my students, a little over half, decided that MobyMax is pretty boring, or it's just okay. It's not something they look forward to doing every day. The other 7 students said that it was okay, or that they liked it or loved it. It is something that we struggle with a little bit, keeping their attention and making sure that they are staying on task for those 10 minutes every day. For future reference, I read several articles, and the references, the works cited can be found if you scan the QR code there. But I read a couple of different articles talking about automaticity, fact fluency, and how you have to start with a solid foundation in counting and reasoning strategies before you can actually master your math facts. So students need to come into grades 3 and 4 with some prior knowledge and with a strong foundation in those 2 skills. We continue to talk about automaticity as a 4th grade team. It is a challenge for students. And as Baker states in his article, students who aren't fluent in those basic math facts will continue to struggle with math concepts as they grow. We're getting into double-digit multiplication, we're getting into long division, and students that are struggling with those math facts are struggling with those steps because they get stuck with the basic math facts and can't then process the steps it takes to solve problems like that. I think we also need to make sure we take into consideration students and technology. Technology seems to be their go-to, but not all students are successful with that. As Hartwig said in her article or in her research, paper and pencil also shows some improvement. So you still get improvement if you're doing other things besides using a technology-based app. So I think moving forward, MobyMax will continue to be used in my classroom and the classrooms of my fellow teachers because it does show improvement. I think we have to remember, though, that there are other ways to practice, and there are other apps. There's paper pencil, there's flashcards, and it's important as us as educators to make sure that we're providing opportunities for all students to show improvement, whether that is using a computer or paper pencil or flashcards, finding ways for them to be successful as well. Have any questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You mentioned timed test. So how do you deal with those students that get flustered and worried about time and don't do their best because they're worried about the time?
There are we went over that a little bit in our class because when I first gave the assessment, they kind of freaked out a little bit. And it's like, I tried to tell them to let go of the time. Don't think about it, just do your best. I also reminded them it wasn't for a grade, but I told them, let's use a strategy. Go through the zeros, the ones, and if you know your fives, do your fives. If you know your tens, do your tens, and then come back. Maybe your twos are next, and then save those harder problems for later. I do like MobyMax in the fact that it is, you can change that time, so there's less pressure on them when they're practicing on the daily, so they're not feeling that stress every single day, and then again when they take the post test. But that's a hard one to address because I feel like there are some kids you get the clock out and they just kind of freak out. Any other questions? Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate your time today.